What is up, you guys? KC here, and from the title and thumbnail, from what it suggests, I will be talking about why you should go to community college. Alright, I'm not going to waste any time with this video. Real quick though, I do want to acknowledge, obviously if you looked at the previous videos I've done, you saw that I did a video about comparing the pros and the cons between going to a four-year university and a community college right after high school. And while that video does address the premise of this video to a degree, it does it in a way that in the last video I was trying to really compare and contrast. With this video, I'm straight up telling you in depth with each point I did make in the last video as well, why you should ultimately choose going to community college. Now, just a little bit of background on myself, if this is the first time you're watching. Hi, my name is Casey. I go to UCLA. I am a transfer student. I went to community college for 2 years and I will be entering my junior year at UCLA this fall. I am from Northern California. And obviously UCLA is in Southern California, but due to the ongoing pandemic, I will be taking my classes online at UC Zoom. Alright, so we're going to get into the first point here. Number one, and this is kind of like a mini pre-point, like a prologue basically. The main, one of a kind of a minor reason why you should go to community college first is that it's actually going to make high school easier for you. If you are lucky or fortunate enough to decide early on that you want to choose to attend community college over going to a four-year university, and you make that decision about freshman, sophomore year, maybe even early on into junior year, you actually have easier requirements. So everyone has the same requirements to graduate with a high school diploma. But if you want to go to a four-year university, you actually have to increase those requirements to a degree. So let me explain. In high school, they want to see that you have about 3 years of a science completed. In high school, they want to see that you complete 2 years of a science. But if you want to go to a university, a four-year university, you have to actually complete 3 years of a science. And in most cases, that involves taking chemistry. So for me, for example, since I knew I was going to attend community college pretty early on in high school, I decided that, well, I don't need to worry about taking a third year of science. So sophomore year, I took biology, and that was it. I hadn't taken a science class for the next 3 years until I got to community college for my GEs. Again, when it comes to math, for example, they want to see that high school requires that you take 3 years of a math, but four universities want to see that you take 4 years of a math. So for me, I worked my way up to Algebra 2, and that was it. But in most cases, if you want to go to a four-year university, you have to make your way up to about pre-calculus, at least here in Northern California. And it's just other little prerequisites like that kind of make it harder on you in high school. So if you decide that you want to go to community college pretty early on, then high school can actually be a little bit easier for you. Alright, now that was a minor point. We're going to get into the big points here. So, number one, and this is kind of like a big one, obviously, and people may think this is the big one, and I kind of made it seem like it was the major one in my last video when I talked about this, but finances. You have to break it down like this. Four universities have three general criteria for how they're going to be priced: in-state, out-of-state, and private. So, let's take my college, for example, UCLA. In-state tuition averages out after grants are applied by the college for pretty much all students, not the Pell Grant, but for most students, is going to be about $13,500 per year. Okay, so if you're going to an in-state, if you're doing it in-state, so you're from California and you're going to go to UCLA, that's $13,000 a year. If you're doing out of state, let me actually look this up real quick. If you're out of state, so let's say you're from New York and you want to come to UCLA, the tuition is actually going to be $42,994. Works out to be about $43,000 a year. So already you're jumping up astronomically just from being out of state, from $13,000 for in-state students versus $43,000 for out-of-state students. Now, private schools, they actually aren't based on in-state versus out-of-state. Everyone has the same set costs on a base standard. For USC, for example, which is the main rival for UCLA, which is why I'm using it, is $58,195 US. Now, with that said, obviously, private school usually works out to be the most expensive. If you're going to an in-state public school, it's going to be your cheapest alternative. Now, why I say all of this is because For the people who end up getting 6 figures in debt, a lot of the times what they did was they decided to go to a university straight out of high school and attend a college that's super far away from their family to get as far away as they can from them. That's going to be out of state. So they end up paying out of state tuition for 4 years. And in a lot of cases, they end up going to grad school, which turns into 6 years, and they end up with 6 figures in debt. So if you are wise with this, you can not fall into that problem. If you go to community college, the price of community college is astronomically, and I truly mean that, astronomically cheaper. You're going to be able to afford it on your own, even if you don't have your parents helping you out paying for it. Working a part-time job, if you go into full-time, you'll definitely be able to afford it. But you'll also, financial aid for low-income students pretty much covers all of tuition costs. So if you're low-income, community college is covered for you. And if in the state of California, the first year of community college was actually free for everybody, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, community college, affordable. You don't have to take out student loans for that. You don't have to worry about living expenses or anything. Room and board, none of that. So, I mean, there you go. Community college, no debt, affordable. 4 universities straight out the gate, debt. And if you don't have your parents paying for it, loans. Also, we have to take into effect that obviously you're still going to have to transfer after community college and go to these 4-year universities. I get that. However, you're cutting it in half, at least for a bachelor's degree. So the person who decided to go to UCLA or USC, UC, Santa Barbara, wherever, straight out of high school versus the person who went to community college and then transferred, this person's going to have 50% less to owe the university. This person's paying twice as much. What did they do differently? One went to community college, the other didn't. So financially, if you have to pay for this stuff on your own, or you don't want to bankrupt your family, if they're not in the best economic situation, go to community college. I mean, just to reiterate, you're not paying for these super high tuition fees. You're not paying for room and board. You probably just got to cover your transportation at most when it comes to community college. And yeah, that's about it. Okay, then my next point here is community college is going to give you time to adapt to the vigor and the vigorous courses of college. College is not the same as high school when it comes to academics. And community college, yes, it's on a semester system, and yes, it's made out to be a lot easier than, attending a 4-year university in terms of the curriculum. But it's still going to be harder than high school. And that's why a lot of people end up dropping out of community college, or they stay there for 5 years, because they realize how much harder college level classes are, and so they need to not take as many units at once, and they spread out their semesters basically. Now this can be very detrimental to a lot of people if they go to a 4-year university straight out the gate. They go to a 4-year university and they realize, oh my god, these classes are really hard, this is too much, I haven't had this type of workload before, I can't do it, yada, and they take a semester off. What community college allows you to do is it gives you 2 years to adapt. You don't feel that pressure, you don't see other people, doing just fine. Like everybody in community college is kind of just like doing their own thing. So what you're able to do with community college is that 2 years is just adapt to the curriculum. It gives you time to adapt. And this coincides with my next point, which is maturing. These next 2 years that you spend after high school are very important. Nobody really talks about that. A lot of people will go to a 4-year university and move really far away, and it's a huge change to them. And a lot of people thrive on that change. However, going straight out of the gate to a 4-year university at 17, 18 years old, a lot of people I know get super homesick, get very, they don't have the best mental health because they feel very lonely, or it's such a big change that they don't really know what to do. If you go to community college though, you have 2 years to grow up even more, really mature, really look over what a 4-year university experience entails for you and pick out everything accordingly. It'll also give you more time to save up money to afford a 4-year university and plan out an even better financial plan for a 4-year university. It gives you that extra time for maturing, understanding the curriculum, and getting used to it. And then it also, and this goes to my next point, increases your chances of getting into an even higher top tier ranking university. So again, speaking from experience, I'm from Northern California, so the community college system in California, I'm speaking on my experience with that. If you decide to attend a community college and then transfer to a university, your GPA requirements and the fact that you don't have to take the SAT or ACT, which I knew the UC system got rid of, but not CSU yet, private institutions. But if you decide to be a transfer student, you have a bigger chance of getting into an even better university. So for example, UC Davis. On average, you need about a 4.0, 4.2 GPA to get in there as a student coming out of high school. But if you're a transfer student, not only is the GPA requirement even lower, you can get in with a 3.5. You can get away with a few Bs. You can also tag it. The tag program is something that I harp on so much because if you're in a certain major department that coincides with certain UCs, you can basically guarantee your admission into these UCs, not counting UCLA, UC Berkeley, and UC San Diego, I'm pretty sure. But all the other UCs are up for grabs. You can tag them, transfer admission guarantee into them. The GPA requirement is even lower than what it would be as a student coming out of high school. So your chances of getting into these top universities are increased astronomically. For UCLA, for example, #1 public university in the entire country, okay? Sorry, Berkeley. They require you to have a minimum of 4.0, but most people and that's coming out of high school. But most people have 4.2, 4.5. They got numerous extracurricular activities. They did multiple sports. And yeah, they're basically your ideal candidate for who came out of high school doing everything. If you're a transfer student, in my example, so I applied with a 3.7 GPA. My only extracurricular activity was the fact that I worked a part-time job, and that's it. And I was able to get in. You can't tag UCLA either, so those requirements got me in there. I was also able to tag UC Davis, and I got into every single CSU that I applied for. As a transfer student, you're going to have a much easier and swell process transferring into these institutions. Now, it is a bit of a bitch to be able to monitor which classes are transferable and monitoring different universities and their requirements. But doing it correctly will lead you to getting into a better university, having better odds of getting into a top university than what you did coming out of high school. Community college is also a fresh slate. When you apply to universities as a transfer student, they don't even bother looking at your transcripts or anything grades-wise when it comes to high school. Now, you actually have the opportunity at listing extracurriculars that you did in high school on your application as a transfer student, which can only help you. But they're not going to dig into like, oh, well, Sally got an F sophomore year in biology, so we gotta take that into account. Like, they don't look at anything from high school. It's a fresh slate. So let's say you fucked up in high school, but you were able to get your high school diploma, and then you go to community college, and you're a straight A student. Well, they're only going to see you as a straight A student, which is another big perk to community college. Your GE courses will also be easier. So as a transfer student, by the time you transfer, you're only going to be focusing on your major requirements. You're not taking GE courses anymore. Community college is a great way to take those GE courses that don't coincide with your intended major and have an easier time with them. So for example, I had to take 2 sciences at my community college for my GEs. So I took geography and biology. Well, bio, shame to say, I got a B. But if I know for a fact, if I had taken that at UCLA, like if I came out of high school into UCLA, took biology at UCLA, and also did it on the quarter system, probably would have been a C. It's going to be a lot harder too, because I would have actually been taking it with probably a professor that specializes in biology. My community college professor that taught biology, he was actually a pharmacist. He wasn't a biologist, but I digress. The courses are meant to be, they can be a lot easier than you taking these GE courses at a 4-year university. Then you're actually going to get specializations, people who specialize in that field, and the curriculum can be harder. So you going to community college can actually increase your GPA and your chances of having even better grades. Because the courses that you probably want to be the best in, but you're forced to take as a GE, you can get those in at community college much easier. Hey guys, real quick, a little bit of a retrospective. So unfortunately, the audio pretty much was shit afterwards. A little buzzy noise coming from my mic overtook my voice. So I'm just gonna, come out with my conclusion here to finish up the video strong with some quality audio is from an iPhone is I would just want to reiterate on the point. Going to community college, it'll save you money, it'll give you time to mature, it'll give you time to figure out the curriculum and the vigor of it all, it'll give you time to work, gain work experience, and have a job, gain a source of income, plan out your financial situation for going to the college, and overall it'll give you an easier time and a better chance of getting into a top tier university than you did in high school. Alright, I'm going to end it there. Thank you for watching. I apologize once again for the audio. I'll see you later.